House Speaker saying no votes until September. As John was just talking about, the House oversight, despite the House Speaker saying no votes until September, as John was just talking about, the House Oversight Committee went and voted a subcommittee now moving forward to subpoena the Justice Department for all of its records in the Epstein case file. That would go far beyond just the file. Despite the House Speaker saying no votes until September, as John was just talking about, the House Oversight Committee went and voted a subcommittee now moving forward to subpoena the Justice Department for all of its records in the Epstein case file. That would go far beyond just the files presented to the grand jury. And that's after the Oversight Committee already this week moved to subpoena Epstein's longtime associate, as they were just discussing, Ghislaine Maxwell, for a deposition. CNN's Lauren Fox is tracking this one for us. I mean, it was like a rolling series of developments with this Epstein saga. This is, of course, from Capitol Hill. This vote happening after the speaker made clear no votes until September.
Yeah, it was really fascinating because this is all playing out in the backdrop that the House Rules Committee had essentially been immobilized by this issue. That meant that they couldn't vote on several bills that they had planned for this week. Then Speaker Johnson made clear to his members that they needed to give the president additional time. And yet, Democrats continued to push this issue in these committee hearings. And where this all played out yesterday was after this House vote, the final vote of this summer session before they go on August recess. There are 3 Republicans who joined Democrats in agreeing to moving forward with a subpoena. Now, the subpoena still has to be signed by the chairman of the committee, James Comer, but I want to walk through exactly what the subpoena does. It calls for the release of the Epstein files with victims' names redacted. And we should note that Republicans and Democrats worked behind the scenes to try to make sure that this was something some of these Republicans were willing to vote for. So that victims' names redacted piece of it was really important to a couple of those Republicans. Then it also calls for communication between the Biden administration and DOJ. It also calls for depositions from the Clintons and James Comey. This was in addition to another subpoena that has already gone out from the committee chairman, James Comer, asking for a deposition with Ghislaine Maxwell, who obviously is now front and center in these talks with the Justice Department and now may have further conversations, of course, with the House Oversight Committee. That is something that when I asked the speaker yesterday if he was supportive of, this is what he said.
I will note the obvious concern, the caveat that Chairman Comer and I and everyone has, that could she be counted on to tell the truth? Is she a credible witness? I mean, this is a person who's been sentenced to many, many years in prison for terrible, unspeakable conspiratorial acts and acts against innocent young people. I mean, can we trust what she's going to say? Even if she raises her hand and says that she'll testify under oath, is that something that can be trusted? You know, that's a reasonable question. Is that credible evidence? I don't know, but we'll have to see.
And this was in response to a question that I had asked the speaker about whether or not he had started to lose control of his conference on this issue. He said that there was no daylight between him and James Comer, but you see there, he does have a lot of questions, a lot of doubt about whether or not Maxwell's deposition is going to lead to any information that in his view is credible. Kate?
All right, Lauren, let's see what happens there today. I really appreciate it.
CNN is now learning at least one name does appear in the Jeffrey Epstein files. That is Donald Trump. We know this because the Attorney General told the president. Sources telling CNN Attorney General Pam Bondi briefed the president in May about the DOJ's review of documents related to the case. During that briefing, she revealed the president's name appeared in those files. Her office also said the files appear to include several unsubstantiated claims that were deemed not credible, including those related to Trump. Now, the exact context on how the president's name appears in the file remains unclear. The president, it's important to note, has not been accused of any wrongdoing in his interactions with Epstein. But now, 2 months after that briefing, the DOJ has declared, of course, the case closed. Listen, though, to how the president responded when he was asked specifically about this just 1 week ago.
on Epstein, of the review of the files. Attorney General Pam Bondi briefed you on that.
Very quick briefing.
Did she tell you, what did she tell you about the review? And specifically, did she tell you at all that your name appeared in the files?
She's given us just a very quick briefing, and in terms of the credibility of the different things that they've seen.
Attorney General Bondi and Assistant AG Todd Blanche issuing a statement on Wednesday, which reads in part, nothing in the files warranted further investigation or prosecution. And we have filed a motion in court to unseal the underlying grand jury transcripts. As part of our routine briefing, we made the president aware of the findings. Efforts by the White House to get Congress to move on from the subject hitting yet another stumbling block on Wednesday as a Republican-led House Oversight Committee voted to subpoena the Epstein files from the Department of Justice, escalating the division and the tensions, frankly, between House Speaker Mike Johnson and the rank and file in the House.
What do you think of the Speaker adjourning the House early to avoid this whole fight over Epstein?
This fight's coming no matter. I mean, this is here, and I've made it part of my life's mission to protect women and kids, and I think that, I'm ready to take this vote. I think we should take this vote and move forward.
The president wants to move on, though. He says it's time to move on.
I've been very clear on my opinion on this issue for a long time.
I mean, you'd have to have your head in the sand to say that this is going to go away. It's not. The public deserves it.
Joining me now in the group chat, Margaret Talev, senior contributor at Axios and director at the Institute for Democracy, Journalism, and Citizenship at Syracuse University. Virginia Allen, writer and producer at the Daily Signal, and Daniel Coe, former deputy and special assistant to President Biden. Nice to have all of you here in the studio this morning. So when we look at where things stand, Margaret, some real effort, of course, by the White House, by the Attorney General to move on. That is clearly not happening, especially when you're seeing, even in the face of efforts by Speaker Johnson to move on and send everybody home, Republicans are not playing ball.
Yep. This has been one of the rare issues that divides the president's base of support and congressional Republicans. And you could be forgiven if you were an American who's like on summer break, maybe you took your kids somewhere and you're sort of like in and out of the news. And it's like, there are no Epstein files. What? That's surprising. Oh, wait, there are Epstein files, but there's nothing to see here, but it's been unsubstantiated. But we're going to ask for the disclosure of everything, but we're only going to ask for the disclosure of the pertinent things. And there's nothing pertinent here to see. And the problem's really with President Obama. Just like there's a lot of whiplash going on right now as the White House tries to find its messaging for how to respond to this and for how to, I think, kind of circle the wagons among their support base in Congress. We were in focus groups this week, as we are regularly with swing voters, and this is just a couple days ago. I'm like literally still going through them. But the Epstein files is one of these issues that illuminates people not because they are convinced that they know exactly what happened, but because it seems like there's some kind of cover-up of powerful people, and voters who are angry and are change seekers don't like that. And that's why the issue is not going away.
And just to follow up, sorry, I'm going to bring you in a second, but just to follow up quickly on that in terms of those focus groups, they don't like the cover-up. Were you able to address with them the question of whether they feel there is even more of a cover-up now because there is not a straight answer from the administration?
Yes. It certainly seems that way. And I don't want to jump to conclusions, and I'm not trying to reach any conclusions about what's in the files that aren't files. But the point is that from a messaging perspective, there's enough of the public who are either Republican voters or in that kind of swingable camp who don't like the idea that there isn't transparency around this issue and that is what they want more of. And the president is, I think, sort of